So, hello everyone. Today, Satya Saran from IIT Delhi. I'm going to teach you all marketing for MBA entrance exams. This will be a mini course or sort of a run-up course where you will be learning about the basic frameworks of marketing with some case studies that I have prepared, and you'll also study about how to use the frameworks in which particular scenario. Okay. So, coming to the first slide, we'll have to first understand what the interviewers are really looking for when they are asking you the questions about marketing. So, what they are not looking for is your memory of definitions, your knowledge about jargons, and your knowledge about abstract theories. These are the things that they are not looking for because anyone can memorize the definition of sales. What you have to do is you have to integrate them with the case studies that you have learned from uh, from the different places, maybe in the news, from maybe this course, or from mm, or basically from your UG discipline, if that may be the case. So, but to get started, what is marketing? Marketing in itself is the holistic process in which first the need of a market is identified, post which you aim to design a product or change your product in some way to create value for the customers and the society as a whole, and finally selling that product and communicating the value of that product to your audience, to your customer base, uh, is described as marketing. Marketing also includes the post-sale services. That is, after you have sold a TV, the ability of a company to open service centers and provide a good after-sales service is also a part of marketing itself. If you were to take a look at an example, the need that one could identify in the market is hunger, or let's say the want of eating good food. The solution is a food delivery app. Now, that food delivery app, after identifying the need, the food delivery app, that is Zomato, tries to create value by trying to deliver you food 24 hours of the day. How they do it is they communicate to you effectively what they are providing. So, most of you might feel hungry at around midnight. That is the time when people like to have a midnight snack. And most of the times you might have seen that is 11:45 is the time when you get a notification like feeling hungry, so that the cravings that you are having for food, that can be used by Zomato to earn profit and provide you value of that food. Marketing is not only about selling products, it's about selling the relevance of that product to its customer base and the society as a whole. Now, the most asked questions in sales and marketing interviews is, what is the difference between sales and marketing? So, one simple definition that everyone knows about this is that marketing is a very broad term under which sales is just a subset of marketing. But that is just a very preliminary definition. What to post sale? So Vrindavan, sorry, Vrinda Pav, so Vrinda Pava has commented that post sale service is marketing basically. So post sale service is a part of marketing. Post sale service is not marketing is not constricted, not restricted to post sale services, but post sale service, yes, is of course a part of marketing. But if you were to take a look at what is the main primary difference between sales and marketing, marketing in itself, broadly put, is a pull process where you're trying to pull the attention of the customers, or you're trying to pull the customers towards your product. Whereas sales in itself is a push process where you are pushing your product towards the customers and trying to sell it to them. Marketing is one of the penultimate, or the right before the ultimate processes of the sales is the penultimate process in marketing. Marketing starts with the realization of a need in the market and ends with the post sale service, or basically the customers becoming the promoters of that product. At one of the last stages is the sale. That is one of the penultimate processes. Now, if we are talking about needs, there are three things that we have to be very uh, informed about. That is the need, want, and demand. So, need is just a basic requirement for survival or function. If you have need for something, for example, if you have need for water, you won't be requiring a Bisleri bottle. You just need a bottle of water or a cup of water. A want is somewhat more aspirational, where you want to satisfy a need but with a preferred product or a preferred service. That is when something like Bisleri or Vedaka, these types of water bottles come into the picture. And demand is when your want is backed by the ability to pay. So if we were to take a look at this example, take a look at another example, your need could be hunger. Now, hunger could be satisfied by roti, chapati, or a bowl of rice equally. It doesn't matter where it is coming from. When you're hungry, you'll eat anything. Now, want is something where you want a specific product. Okay. For example, you might want a pizza from Pizza Hut or Domino's. And when you are thinking that you want to, when you have the capacity to buy those things, and you are willing to buy those things, that is when demand occurs. If anyone is from economics, you might know what is supply and what is demand. This is roughly the same demand that we are talking about. Next, there is a concept of willingness versus capacity that comes very closely from want and demand. Okay, so willingness is the want or the need or the it's basically the want of a person to buy a particular product. It's a desire of a person to buy a product. For example, iPhone. Someone wants to buy an iPhone. It's a very common thing. Most of the people right now, maybe the willingness has gone down a little bit because there are better options. But if you go back 3 or 4 years in the past, the you would be very surprised if you found someone who didn't want to buy an iPhone. Okay, and then there is a capacity. Capacity is that you are having that money to buy that particular iPhone. When the intersection of these two happens, that you want to buy an iPhone and you can buy an iPhone, that is when demand is created. Now, there are two cases. One is that people don't have willingness, but they have the capacity. This can be seen in cases like insurance. Insurances, most people have some capacity to buy some kind of insurance, especially because right now with mobile apps and with the government schemes, a lot of insurances are much cheaper. But people still don't buy it. So in the case of insurance, there is capacity, but there is no willingness to buy an insurance. Whereas many a times in case of a very expensive phone, there is the willingness to buy the phone, but people don't have the capacity. Now, what is the marketing team's core job? See, the core job of a marketing team is to design products for its customer base that they will be willing to pay for. They cannot affect they cannot change the capacity of the customer. What they can do is come up with a better product, or let's say in many cases a cheaper alternative that they will be willing to pay for and they are able to pay for. Okay, does anyone have any doubts? Okay, moving forward, we have a lot of different business models. First is a very common business model, that is B2C. You can see this in FMCG, apparel brands, and retail outlets. So, for example, ITC is a B2C brand. Same with Peter Engman, that comes under ABFRL, or Van Heusen again ABFRL. These are majorly emotion driven. If you see a Louis Philippe ad, you can see that it is most often the protagonists of the ad are Westerners or Caucasian men who are dressed in a Louis Philippe suit and are having some purpose to their life. They are trying to appeal to the emotional aspect of the customer, where they want to emulate that person in some fashion or the other. Next is B2B business model. B2B business model is mostly in terms of machinery, consulting, or software as a service. So B2B comes, so for example, if you start a factory of tomato ketchups, okay, then the boiler that you will be buying to start making a ketchup, that you won't buy from a normal B2C brand. For that, there are different B2C services, B2C companies that will sell you that boiler. In this case, the role of emotions is much lesser than the logic and the return on investment that is seen in this particular case. Okay. An example of this would be Tata Steel. Tata Steel does not, if you go to, first of all, you won't be able to find a Tata Steel outlet that will be selling you steel utensils. Tata Steel will sell those steel utensils to some utensil brand like Prestige or Hawkins, and then they will make that utensil out of that steel and sell it to you. Next is a D2C customer. So for example, Mama Earth is a D2C customer. The difference between B2C and D2C is that D2C sells directly from the company to the customer. There is no intermediary. Okay. Right now, it's very difficult to find companies that are not into any other, let's say, distributor network and are only in D2C. But there are many examples that you can find that are also doing D2C. For example, Mama Earth or Arata. With Amul protein shakes, you can find that Amul protein shakes are something that you will get exclusively directly from the company. So Amul protein shakes are an example of D2C. The key aim is data ownership. Whenever you are buying a product, a team of data scientists could basically predict the demand that is going to come in the future months. That is why businesses try to have some element of a D2C supply chain in their business. Next is C2C. So C2C is customer to customer. These are websites like OLX, eBay, and Airbnb where no one is a business. Both are just customers of some other product which they are trying to sell to different customers. The key element is platform trust in these kinds of places. And finally is C2B. This is very rare, but I've not written this in the PPT. But if you go to websites like Fiverr, it's a freelancing website where you as a freelancer can sell your services to a business. Or if any of you become an influencer. So for example, Mr. Beast in his capacity is an influencer who does ads of different brands. Then he is giving this service as a customer to a business. This is again C2B. I've just summed up the B2B versus B2C sales cycle. B2C in B2C, the decision of buying the product or not buying the product is at the individual level, whereas at the B2B level, it is decided by a committee. Or take a look at the driving emotion of this type of sale. In B2C, it's more about emotion and impulse. If you go to a supermarket, you will see what used to happen in Big Bazaar. I remember around 10 years back was that when you entered Big Bazaar, there was a hot chocolate or an American corn outlet just near the entrance, so that when you go in, the aroma of that particular food tries to create the impulse in you to buy that product. This cannot happen in a business because when businesses are buying something, that is mostly decided by a committee where the focus is more on logic and whether they will be able to make that money back. Okay. If we were to take an example, the ads of chocolate like Dairy Milk's Kuch Meetha Ho Jaye is a perfect example of a B2C ad where they are trying to appeal to the festive emotions of the customer and trying to sell their product. Whereas an ERP system, which is an enterprise resource planning software, that is something that most of you might not have heard of. But when companies are trying to scale up their business into multiple states and multiple geographies, they need a singular system that will be able to manage their marketing efforts, their spendings, their operations, their supply chain, their sourcing. It is a single system that can manage all of that. That is an ERP software. In that, it's more about the functionality of the software. Branding of a B2C business is loud and eye-catching, whereas in B2B, it's more about trust. Now, you guys will be asked to prepare a sales funnel in an interview. So you guys might be asked that you are the brand manager or you are the marketing manager of a particular product. Decide on the sales funnel. What I have prepared for you is a simple B2B sales funnel because it's mostly longer. First is awareness. First, you will become aware of the product. So if we were to take an example of, let's say, Ferrero Rocher, okay? Unlike Dairy Milk, which is very popular, Ferrero Rocher is not that popular, albeit it's very popular. Most of the people are 8 or 9 when they come to hear of this brand name. So first stage is awareness. That is where your advertising takes place. Advertising or basically your publicity. Publicity is when the customers themselves are going to other people and telling them about the product. You got Ferrero Rocher as a gift. That is when you first saw it. Then when you taste it or when you hear reviews, that is the interest phase. That is when you start researching about why Ferrero Rocher is so expensive. Why is it different from other chocolates? Why is it that people give this as gift whenever there is a special occasion? Then there is consideration. You try to calculate the ROI that you will be getting from this chocolate, whether it's worth buying it, whether the person that you're gifting it to will like this chocolate or not. Then there is the intent, basically you wanting to buy this and thinking of where to buy it from, be it online or offline. And final is the purchase. If you were to simplify it further, you can just do it in 4 steps, that is awareness, interest, desire, and action. Okay, I've given a different example about a phone. So you see an advertisement on YouTube, then you go on Google and search about that phone, what that phone is, what are the features of that phone. Then you are comparing the price on different websites, maybe on GSM Arena or different websites that give you that service. Then you have the intent, you visit the offline store or to take a touch and feel of the phone, and finally you make the payment and buy the phone. Okay, so someone is asking, if company sells its products through Zepto, Blinkit, will it be B2C or D2C? In this case, it's B2C because it's not selling directly. It's a different channel. But many times what happens is that these companies will come up with their own products. Then it is D2C. For example, Amazon, if you're selling something on Amazon, then it's B2C. But Amazon Basics products, it's D2C. Is it clear? Akash, right? Now, I have come up with 5 frameworks that you could use in the interview, but don't do one thing in your interview. Don't just start with different frameworks that, okay, I would like to use SWOT here or the 5 C's here, Porter's 5 forces here. You will have to first take a look at what the situation is, what is the question that they are asking you, and then you will have to understand which framework is used there and then use that framework. This is useful in your interviews if they give you a marketing case study. This happens in many of the SIBM interviews, and it will be more useful if you have like a case GD situation. For example, XLRI does case GDs, in which you will be given leaflets with cases that are around 500 words, and you will have to apply different frameworks. These are mostly around the area of marketing. So the first framework of the day that we are going to study is SWOT. The example that I've taken is a very common example. When you come to a B school, this will be the most used example for for SWOT. That is Netflix. We take a look at strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. The strength of Netflix is there is nothing to teach here. I'll just run you through it. The strength of Netflix is that it has a very strong content library. It has global. So in content, what happens is, if you have made a web series, then you sell rights to different companies. It's very well possible that one country has the rights to show it in the North America, South America region. And then for Asia or South Asia, or maybe Africa, for any other region, there is another company that is doing it. So not only does Netflix have a very strong content library, it also has the distribution rights for a lot of web series and movies. But the weakness is that the cost of Netflix is very high. If you compare it to Amazon Prime or Hotstar or other alternatives that are coming these days, maybe HBO, then the cost is much higher compared to its alternatives. Now, the opportunity that Netflix has leveraged is regional content, hyperlocal stories. For example, Sacred Games is not something that will be that popular in India. And Suits is not something that will get a lot of viewership in India. And I'm sorry, Secret Games is not something that will be that popular in US. So what they did is they brought the rights for Sacred Games. They helped produce it and brought the rights for Sacred Games so that the people in India have one more reason to buy a Netflix subscription. Now, what is the threat? The threat is competition. Players like Disney Plus, Prime Videos, and other local players are giving similar, if not better, content at a cheaper price. But as I said earlier, SWOT is used when you need an overall business snapshot. So if you are given a case study and you are asked about what you should do, SWOT will come as one of the first answers. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. It should not be the case. You were given a case study about a telecom company or web series company that is seeing declining profits, and you get the eighth entry or the ninth entry, and then you start talking about SWOT. SWOT has to be one of the first frameworks that you talk about if you talk about it at all. Next is 5C. 5C is about the company, customers, competitors, collaborators, and climate. This is used when you are trying to understand how you should launch a product or a service, in which geography and in what manner. So first you will take a look at the company. Let's take an example of a D2C skincare brand, maybe like Mamaearth. So first you'll have to take a look at the company's identity. Let's take example of minimalist. So it has clean ingredients, focus on transparency and safety. You can see that the brand name is clearly the element, the salt name or the chemical name is clearly visible and written on the product itself. The branding is very minimal, and the USP, the unique selling proposition, is science-backed formulations. The customers that they have decided on is urban millennials aged 25 to 35 in tier 1 cities. The behavior of the customers is that they read labels and follow skincare professionals. Uh, the direct competitors, since I took the example of minimalist, I'll just remove this particular name from there because the company itself is minimalist. The competitors that we are seeing is The Ordinary. Indirectly, my Mamaearth and Wow Science are also competitors because they are mass premium. The threat is that once you start giving discounts or maybe your price is lower than theirs, the competitors might also reduce their price to match yours. Then take a look at the collaborators. For a skincare brand, who can be the collaborators? First will of course be the influencers. Then will be the logistic services. So if you're delivering your product from your factory or your warehouse to the customer, you need someone to do that. That is the logistic services, and the marketplaces like Amazon, Nika, for discovery of the product, because no one will start coming to your website from day one. You'll have to have some presence on some e-commerce platforms so that you are able to be seen by the customers. And finally is the climate. So the reason that we talk about climate, see, company, customer, competitors, and collaborators, these are still not that abstract. They are very solid things that exist and can be clearly visible. But climate is somewhat abstract. It talks about the trends that are there in that particular time in that particular markets. For example, self-care and clean beauty are rising now. Most of the beauty products that you see claim to be PETA certified, cruelty free. So this is the climate that we are living in, and the products have to be designed so that they can win in that particular climate. Again, 5C will be used when you are asked to design a GTM or a market entry strategy for any particular product. Next, if you have to decide whether you should enter an industry or not, then what do you do is you check the Porter's five forces. So Porter's five forces is, you'll have to note it down. Porter's five forces has five elements. First is that the industry that you are going into, does it have any threat of new entrants? Is it possible that the new competitors who are trying to enter your market can do that without any sort of effort? Is it very easy to enter that market? If it is very easy, then it's advised to not go there. Then are the competitors who are already in that particular market, do they have a very high rivalry? Is there constant price wars that is happening between the existing competitors? Then there is a threat of substitutes. This might be a little bit difficult for you to understand. So for example, if you decide to go into the soft drink industry, or let's say you try to go into the canned cold coffee industry. So is there a third is threat for substitutes? The threat of competitors is different from threat of substitutes. How? The fourth one is threat of new entrants, that is competitors, is different from threat of substitutes because the new entrants or the competitors will sell the same product but of their own brand, whereas the substitutes are in different products entirely. So a substitute for coffee could be energy drinks. That is threat of substitutes, whereas a threat of new entrant for Nescafe might be, uh, let's say, David of coffee. Okay. Then finally, we have two supply chain headers. First is bargaining power of suppliers. So, the thing that you are buying from the market, your raw materials, is it that the people that you are buying it from have a lot of power over you? And finally, is the buying power of the customers. So, people whom you are selling it to, do they have a lot of power over you? Can they uh, just blackmail you into reducing the price? We will take a look at two different industries. First will be the airline industry. This, from Porter's five forces point of view, is structurally unattractive because the rivalry is very high. Air India's price keeps going lower and lower with every passing quarter compared to its competitors, which is I'm sorry, Indigo's price keeps going lower and lower every quarter. Whereas if you take a look at Air India, its prices are on the higher side, but again, the services that they are providing are much better than Indigo. Then the buying power is high. So if Indigo decides to increase its prices, instantly the mm, instantly the customers will decide to go to another airline. Now, thing that I have not mentioned here is that the threat of substitutes is also high. So, for example, if you decided that you will sell flight tickets from, let's say, Kanpur to Delhi, it's a 2-hour flight. But if the prices are very high, what they will do is they will just take an overnight train. So the supply threat of substitutes is also very high. The supplier power is if you take a look at the suppliers, so you will get airplanes from Boeing and Airbus. This is a duopoly. There are only two players, and there is not a lot of competition for you to take a look at new players. If you take a look at the fuel prices, that is again something that you have no control over. If the fuel prices go up, then you will have to pay the extra amount that is there. Whereas if you take a look at the soft drink industry, this one is structurally attractive. Why? Because uh, once you have entered that particular market, the barriers to entry for others, or even for you, the barriers to entry are on the higher side because you need a bottling plant, you need a unique recipe, you need a distributor network. These are things that you'll have to build from the ground up. Is there brand loyalty in this? Yes, there is strong brand loyalty in the case of cold drinks, that is Coke versus Pepsi. So if you have a different product, you can safely assume that given your product is good enough, the brand loyalty will also be there for your product. Now, when it comes to substitutes, the substitutes of soft drinks are what? Water, but juice. They exist, but it's not like they can end the entire soft drink or cold drink industry overnight. And the profitability is also high. Mm, In this case, you have to note that your effort in a business does matter, but more than your effort, what matters is the industry that you have chosen is. Okay, so for example, if you were to take a look at two different industries, first would be uh, a company like Marico. Marico is a common FMCG brand. The competition in FMCG brand is very high, and the strategy is that you'll have to have a very good distribution network and low prices. The revenue of Marico will be somewhere around 10,000 crores. But if you take a look at something like Indigo, its revenue will be much higher. It does not go on to say that the companies are better or worse than the others, but the revenue and profit are often decided by the industry that the players are playing in. This for Porter's five forces is again used to get a industry snapshot of whether the industry is lucrative or not. Then there is perceptual mapping. So if you take a look at this example, on one axis you have the features, whether they are basic or premium, and on the other axis, on the x-axis, you will have price, whether it is low or high. So low, high, and somewhat premium features, such a phone is Xiaomi. Then medium price and good features is OnePlus. And if you go on the higher end, then we have Apple and Samsung. This framework is again used to understand where your brand is positioned and what is the direction that you need to take in your advertising. If you take a look at Apple, the focus is more on the overall experience of using the phone over the premiumness and aspiration that it is selling to you. Whereas when you go in Xiaomi, because it does not have a very good brand appeal, it's focusing more on the individual features like the camera, the Bluetooth, or the glossy back finish that they have. Now, one framework that will be very important for India context, for the context of Indian marketing, is the 4A framework. After this, we will come to more famous frameworks that are there and very important for you. So Vrinda Power is asking, what is D2C? D2C is direct to customers. So basically, when you are selling in a manner in which the things are leaving your warehouse and reaching directly to the customer with the help of a third-party logistics or even your own logistics system, that is D2C. There is no mediator wholesaler in between. That business model is known as D2C. Akash Bansal is saying OnePlus lies in the most difficult spot. Agreed. So for an Indian market, you have to take a look at four things. Is your product acceptable to the Indian market, especially if you are looking for mass adoption? Then, are the people aware about it? Third is affordability. Is it affordable? And is it accessible? So let's take a look at a recent thing. I've not written this down. You guys will have to write it down. Domino's is D2C. So take an example of Campa Cola. Okay? The Indian soft drinks market was mostly captured by players like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and other sub-brands like Fanta, Thumbs Up. But what Reliance realized was that most of the money that is in Coca-Cola and other brands is going towards their marketing. There is a huge margin that they earn and spend in marketing. If the company does not do advertising at very expensive venues, that they can save a lot of money for themselves and for the customers. So what Campa Cola did was it used its existing network and sold Campa Cola. Hi, sir. I want to do an MBA in marketing and will also specialize in marketing. What kind of internship should I do in UG and how many is appropriate? Internships, Vivan, it totally matters on the number of internships that you are getting. If you are getting 3, 4, 5 internships in proper sales, marketing, digital marketing, marketing analytics, then there's no one who's going to stop you from that. And the more, the better. Just don't compromise on your academics for it. So what Reliance did with Campa Cola was it knew that the product will be acceptable because it will have the brand name of Reliance. So it was an acceptable product and customers would want to buy it given one reason, given one factor that the taste has to be good enough, which they worked on. Next is awareness. So how did they spread awareness about this product? They did not go the traditional way of TV ads and sponsoring cricket matches. What they did was they already had their own suppliers, distributors. They had the entire network. What they did was they gave perks to the kirana store owners, like a proper holding of their shop, giving them refrigerators, which usually companies like Pepsi and all used to give. They started with these incentives to the kirana owners. What this did was it made the product, made Campa Cola both um, made the customers aware about Campa Cola, and it made Campa Cola accessible to the customers. So this particular strategy solved these two things. And finally, by keeping the price lesser than the competitors, Campa Cola came out as the most affordable brand. Now, coming to one of the most important frameworks, that is the 4P. So 4P uh, is about the product, price, place, and promotion. So if we were to take a look at Tata Tea, let's say Tata Tea. There are two versions of Tata Tea, Tata Tea Gold and Tata Tea Advanced. Tata Tea Gold is called in golden color and Advanced is in green color. Okay, what is the difference between the product? The See, the intensity of the tea leaves goes down as the price increases. You'll have to put more tea, but the aroma will increase. So Tata Tea Gold has more aroma but less intensity, whereas Tata Tea Advance has more intensity, less aroma. This is the difference between the product, but you'll have to know what your product is. Next is price. Tata Tea Premium comes around 300 rupees, whereas Tata Tea Gold comes around 500 rupees. Okay. If you take a look at places, so Tata Tea Gold will not be available in every village Kirana store, but Tata Tea Premium or Tata Tea Advance is available there. But if you want to buy Tata Tea Gold, you'll either have to go to a Kirana store that is in the main city, or you'll have to go to a supermarket. And the final element is promotion. It's about the different methods that are using to promote your product. Now, Tata Tea Premium, Tata Tea Gold both use the same type of promotion, that is TV ads. Now, when you're designing a product, you have to think of 5 levels. First is the core benefit that the customer will get out of the product. Then is the basic needs that will be fulfilled. After that comes the expected benefits of the product. Let's use a different example for this. So products can be of 5 levels. First is core benefit that you will get, that is communication. Then the basic needs like from a hardware device, for example, a computer. The expected thing that you are getting in a phone is camera, battery, display. The added service is cloud service warranty, and the potential is AI integration. Let's take a good example for this. So let's take an example of Samsung S25. What is the core benefit that anyone can get out of an S25? The core benefit is communication. You will be able to talk to other people using that phone and a SIM card. Then what is the basic need that you're fulfilling out of that phone? It is the device itself. You are having a device that you could use for different purposes of your life. The expected things that you get from that phone is a camera, battery, and display. It's not directly linked to your core benefit, that is communication, that you can also do from a telephone, but these are the things that are expected out of a smartphone. With these three, the product in itself is complete, but to add value, you get two other elements. That is, one is augmented means something that is added. So cloud, good service, and warranty. Cloud is basically that whatever you're storing on the phone gets uploaded to a single Samsung server that you can then access from a different phone, your new phone, whenever you buy one. And the potential is AI integration. So with Samsung, you have this feature that you can simply edit images using AI. Again, if you were to take a look at the differences in price, an Apple phone costs somewhere around a lakh rupees, whereas a Redmi phone we will be able to buy that in 13,000-14,000. When you come to the place distribution as a strategy, so luxury brands are very exclusive in nature. You will not find a Lacoste store in the suburbs of Lucknow, but you will definitely find it in central Bombay. Whereas if you take a look at FMCG brand, they will try to reach the last mile. They will try to reach every nook and cranny, every village in India. Now, there are many elements of promotion that we can take a look at. You'll have to, whenever you're asked to design a promotion strategy for any particular product, you should not pick out each and every one of them and list all of them. You should just take a look at what is the type of customer that you're trying to target, where will that customer be available, and then that particular advertising channel for that particular customer. For example, housewives are expected to be more on TV and on Facebook. Whereas if you were to take a look at Gen Z customers, you can find them more on Instagram. So the different tools of promotion are advertising, sales promotion tactics like discounts, coupons, Buy one get one offer. BOGO offers means buy one get one offers. Then there is public relations. So if you take a look at Fevicol ads, you can see an entire story there. There is that sofa story that was very common in one particular ad. There is a very popular brand story that Flipkart is able to sell. Then there is direct marketing. So if you sign up to any newsletters, you will find that you are regularly receiving emails for that newsletter. Then there is personal selling that is declining these days in B2C context. And then finally is digital, that is social media and influencers. If we were to come to 7 Ps, 4 Ps are just about product, place, promotion, and price, whereas the 7 Ps add three more elements, and this then becomes for service. 4 Ps is for a product like tea leaf or let's say a cup of, let's say, coffee, or something that is more on the product side, maybe chocolate, maybe a packet of chips. But when it comes to services like a restaurant or a cafe, then you take a look at those 4 Ps plus the people, the humans that they are interacting with, the process, and the physical evidence. Okay, so for this, let's take an example of McDonald's. The product that they are mostly selling is burgers and fries. The price again depends on the product, but you can get a burger starting from around 80 rupees, and that could go up to 600, 700. The place again that they are selling is Zomato, Swiggy, and their outlets. The promotion is mostly on Instagram. It used to come on TV, but right these days the TV ads of McDonald's are reducing. Plus, then there is the people. When you go into McDonald's, you see that the people that they have, the staff that they have, are dressed in a particular way with the colors of that particular brand, and they have a uniformity in their behavior, their grooming, politeness, and problem solving attitude. The process is that you go in, you place an order, get a receipt, and then when your number comes up on the screen or your name is called out, you go and collect your particular product. Physical evidence is the ambience of that place, the cleanliness, staff uniforms. Apart from this, I took the example of McDonald's because mostly you see that outside of the store there is a statue or a figurine of a person who is dressed totally in McDonald's colors, yellow, white, and red. That again is a physical evidence of that store being McDonald's. Now coming to one of the last topics, that is brand. So what is the brand? How is brand different from a product? See, product has an intrinsic value. If there is a white t-shirt, and if you have to sell a white t-shirt that is fresh, made freshly, that is not second hand, there is no way that you will be able to sell it for less than 50 rupees. No matter the quality, a t-shirt is going to sell for at least 50 rupees. Or 1 kg of salt will anyways sell for 20 rupees. But when you add a brand to it, the same people will pay extra for the same product. A simple white t-shirt that you can get on Meesho with some specifications about the type of cotton, the thread length, and the GSM, grams per square meter, you might get it for 300. But the same t-shirt, when branded with a Tommy Hilfiger logo, will then start costing rupees 3000. Why? Because then it gives you an identity, status, and a guarantee of performance. Whereas from Meesho, it was just about the type of cotton, the stitching, and the utility of that particular t-shirt. Now, coming to brand image versus the experience. So, an airline, because customers often visit, most of the people will visit an airline or will board a plane mostly once in a year, and that too is on the higher side. The image of a particular airline, let's take Indigo for example, can be that they are making people fly like royalty, even though their focus is mostly on low costs, but they will never say that the customer experience is bad. The focus is that you are getting good flying experience, you are getting comfort, the flights are going to be on time. But when you, that is the brand image that they have promised. But brand experience is not decided by the company, it is the experience that you are getting from availing the services of that company. So the gap that is there is that most of the times it might be possible that on Indigo you go and the meal is not available. The meal is simply put cold because they are not putting ovens on the plane to save on the cost. The seats might be worn out. They promise that the flights are on time, but in reality, the flights are delayed by 45 minutes. Now we are going to take a look at two different concepts. First is brand equity and the other is brand value. Brand equity is the emotional strength and intangible assets of a brand. How do customers love the brand? For example, the in the case of Apple, the brand equity is more about a seamless experience. If you are using if you're using the earphones from Apple and you're using that on your phone, then you shut down your phone and you open your MacBook or your iMac. Instantly, the earphones will switch the connection from the phone to your laptop. That will be instant. This is the experience that you are getting, and this is garnering some respect for Apple in your mind. This is brand equity. Whereas when you take a look at brand value, it is that if tomorrow Apple decides to sell the brand, then the financial worth of that particular brand will be the brand value of that particular brand. Now, most of you will be asked about USP in your interviews. That is the unique selling proposition. If you have seen Shark Tank, most of the time they are talking about USP. But for mass brands, there is another thing that comes into the picture, that is ESP, that is emotional selling proposition. So let's take an example of two oils. First is the Parachute coconut oil. What is the USP? It is a well-trusted coconut oil brand which can, which is food grade safe. Although they are doing it to save taxes, but it is even safe for human consumption. This is Parachute. Now, if you take a look at different kind of oil, that is Dabur Amla oil. The promise that they are making is not only will your hair be good, khane mote kale bal, apart from this, 1 rupee will also go to children's education. So what are they appealing on? They are appealing on your emotional side. This is the emotional selling proposition. Okay. Now let's take a look at the brand ritual. So brand ritual is a way by which a brand's products or services become a essential part of your life. For example, if you remember the Nescafe ad, it was or the Boost ad. I'm sorry, it was more about you waking up in the morning. It was common with Boost was about you waking up in the morning and your mother training you to run on a track and basically be fit and achieve the medal, achieve something in your life. Whereas the Nescafe ad was something similar. It was you. It was about you waking up, grabbing a cup of coffee, and hustling through the college life with that cup of coffee. This is a brand ritual. You get up in the morning at 8 a.m. and drink a cup of coffee from that particular brand, which is promising you this. Or if you come to Cadbury, then kuch meetha ho jaye on some celebratory instance is again a correlation between something happy, a happy news, and a chocolate from Cadbury. The focus is more on creating rituals that you will gift someone a Cadbury celebrations pack on Raksha Bandhan. It is not about logic or reconsideration. There is Raksha Bandhan, you will buy a Cadbury celebrations pack. Mm, Next is when you launch a new product, it's not like everyone will start to buy your product in this at day one. There is a product adoption curve that we can see in the market. The first 2.5% of the customers are innovators. They are the people who are very much interested about new products and are going to buy anything and everything that is new in the market and interest them. Then the next 13.5 are the early adopters. These are the people who will buy the product once it has gained significant fame. So if you take an example of Tesla, the people who were buying Tesla at the very start in around 2008 were innovators. Then after that came early adopters. Then the next 34% are early majority. These are the people who will buy the product once and only once that the product has gained enough respect in the market. Then after this, the sales dips a little bit, but then comes the late majority. These are the people, 34% of the people who are conservative. They will only buy the product once it has become a very common thing in each and every household, when they can see it around themselves, not on TV, but around themselves. And laggards are basically people who will not buy it until unless it has become a necessity or something that is so common that they cannot escape that particular products. For example, if you take a look at EVs, EVs will be bought first by the innovators, irrespective. They will not worry about whether there are refueling stations or not. They will take that risk and buy the product. Early adopters will be the ones who see that the government is promising charging centers and TV ads of EVs. They will start buying it. Early majority will start buying once the charging stations are there. Late majority will start buying once the residential area that they are in has sufficient number of charging stations and sufficient number of these products. And laggards will only buy once the other types of vehicles are disincentivized by the government. For example, the taxes are higher, much higher on petrol cars. Now I'd like to end the session with 4 case studies. First is Cadbury Dairy Milk कुछ मीठा हो जाए. So what is a typical Indian case is that whenever you go to someone's home, what used to happen was people used to give them sweets, mostly laddus, pedas, barfis, something like this. If you go on Raksha Bandhan or New Year to someone, mostly to your siblings, you will go with these. What Cadbury understood was that these have to be prepared by in different kitchens with what people call halwais, and these have a short shelf life. Okay? And for the kids that were growing up, these were sweet, but they were not as good as chocolates. So what Cadbury decided was, it decided to link its product, the chocolates, to celebration. It tried to work on the emotional aspect. It tried to have its own ESP. It created a ritual where on Raksha Bandhan especially and on New Year's, people were going to each other's play homes. Even on Diwali, you can see a lot of ads of Diwali from Cadbury, where they are going as guests to their friends and family with a box of Cadbury celebrations. It tried to replace mithai as a modern substitute for it. And the business result was the category got expanded. So instead of just small children buying chocolates, it started seeing boost in sales around the festive season, which meant that the intent that they had, that was to make their product a festive product, that was successful. Next is Amul topicals. So you might remember this utterly butterly delicious Amul. This was again let's say a marketing move from Amul, where what they did was, um, we had Amul butter. Okay. Now traditionally, how butter was prepared was that butter was just the stage before milk was made into ghee. And butter was not something that was eaten too much in the Indian market, Indian households. What used to happen was, when the ghee was being made for 2 or 3 days, the butter was just sitting idly for the butter to be collected. That is when mothers used to apply that butter on rotis and give it to their children. But what Amul did was, it started selling butter separately, and the branding that it used was utterly butterly delicious. And with the brand warmth that it promised, the product became very popular in India. Another example is an international example, that is Nike. If you remember an ad, I would like you all to go after this class and see that ad. There was a person who was overweight. We can see the weighing machine. It's obvious that the person is overweight. Then that person walks to a chair, kicks the chair, and we can see that the person is hanging. So the first part of the ad is very fearful, where the people are somewhat scared about what this ad is, and it seemed insensitive. But when the camera pans out, we can see that particular person is doing a dead hang. So the ad was more about not thinking a lot about what you have to achieve or what you have to do, but just starting to do what you have to do and start trying to be fit. Okay. It defined again, got with a category defining brand ethos. So Apple's case study is different. This you can do on your own. Now, I will just tell you in a very short manner what you have to do in an interview. You have to first understand what that particular case is about. You have to get customer insight. You have to think yourself as the customer about what is your needs, what is the thing that you look out for, what is the difference in the product that you want to use. That is the consumer insight part. Then you have to take a look at the brand action. What are you as a marketer going to make your brand do different? What would you do? And finally, you would have to pitch in one or two frameworks of your choice from the list that I have given you. Okay, that was the marketing class. If you have any doubts, you can leave them in the comments. I will be more than happy to leave an answer. So yeah, that was it.